In the dark silence of deep space, something ancient stirred. Far beyond the reach of Earth's telescopes, a faint signal pulsed through the void. It traveled for years across cold black emptiness, a message wrapped in fear, desperation, and something else. And then, one quiet night, it reached Earth. It started with a whisper, just a strange flicker across a deep space listening station. At first, scientists thought it was noise space static, but then it repeated not once, not twice, hundreds of times. It wasn't random, it was a pattern. Inside a secure bunker under Geneva, Earth's top analysts worked around the clock. They decoded the message. Their faces turned pale. It was a voice, alien, frantic, desperate. "Please, we are dying. Anyone, help us." Sky burns. They are here. Then static. Then silence. Humanity listened again and again. The signal was real. The fear in the voice was real. And the message had coordinates far outside. Known space, the United Earth Council gathered in secret. Leaders, generals, scientists, arguments followed. Some said, "It's a trap." Others said, "If it's real, we can't ignore it." Then came the final vote. One decision. One mission. Send the fleet the launch from the orbiting shipyards above Mars. 12 Earth warships launched into the void. A full expedition. Fighters, destroyers, 2 massive carriers, and the flagship Vanguard. Led by Commander Ryland Kane. He was a legend. Cold, brilliant, feared by enemies, respected by his crew. He'd seen things most soldiers wouldn't believe. In the command deck of the Vanguard, he stood in silence, staring out the window as Earth slowly shrank behind them. "Do you believe the signal's real?" His second-in-command, LT, Marla Chen, asked. Ryland didn't answer at first. Then quietly, he said, "It doesn't matter. We're going to find out." Into the void the fleet jumped. 12 ships vanished into deep space heading where no human had gone. At first, everything was normal. Charts updated, crew rotated, all systems green. But 3 days into the journey, things changed. A small scout ship Falcon. I went silent. No distress call, no damage. Just gone. Search teams found nothing. Then came the sounds. Late at night, engineers heard strange whispers on the comms. Ghost signals. One tech officer reported hearing his dead wife's voice. The fleet grew nervous. "Is this part of the trap?" some whispered, but Kane remained calm. "Stay sharp. Stay ready." End of Part 1. Preview. As the fleet approached the alien coordinates, the stars themselves seemed to fade. The darkness grew heavier. Systems blinked. Comms flickered. Something massive moved just outside radar range. And then they saw it, a world. Half burned, half shadow. The signal had come from here. But no reply came now. Only silence. Commander Kane spoke one word. "Prepare for landing." 12 ships, hundreds of soldiers. All trained, all armed, but nothing could prepare them for what waited near the dying planet. The first thing they saw was the planet's sky. It was wrong. Thick black clouds twisted like living things. Strange lights flickered across the atmosphere, red, purple, sickly green. The second thing they saw, the ruins. Cities once massive, now shattered. Towers broken in half. Entire continents burned, like something had fed on the planet. And through it all, the silence, no distress call. No survivors, nothing. The missing ship has the fleet entered orbit. Falconide. The scout ship that had vanished treered on scanners. It was drifting, lifeless, near the planet's moon. Kane ordered a team. Find out what happened. Dropship with 6 Marines docked with the Falcon 9. The ship was dark, cold, silent inside. The soldiers found something that made hardened warriors shake. The crew was gone. Not dead, not alive. Gone. All that remained were empty suits. Weapons. Untouched. Helmets sitting on chairs, still sealed, still perfectly placed. And on the walls, carved with shaking hands, one word appeared again and again. Run the first contact back on the Vanguard. Commander Kane studied the planet's surface. His Screens showed something strange. Deep beneath the planet's largest ruined city, a signal was still active. Faint, but alive. "We're not alone," LT Chen whispered. "The fleet sent a landing team." Kane didn't like it. But orders were clear. Find survivors. Find the source. The dropship touched down among broken skyscrapers. The soldiers moved carefully. Every shadow felt alive, and then they found her. A lone alien. She was injured, shaking, and terrified. She wasn't human, but her fear was unmistakable. Her first words translated. "By Asilled every soldier to the bone, you should not have come."
Ow.
The warning, the alien's name was Lyra. Last of her people, she begged the humans to leave, to flee, to forget they ever saw the signal. It wasn't a call for help, she whispered. It was a warning. The humans didn't understand. Lyra raised her hands to the black sky. "The void beasts," she said. "They're coming. They devour everything. They don't stop. They don't think. They only consume." Her voice broke. Tears ran down her strange alien face. "We tried to fight. We failed. You will too." Shadow moves above the planet on the Vanguard. The sensors went crazy. Multiple unidentified contacts. Large, fast, silent. There. They're just appearing out of nowhere. A tech officer shouted. On the main screen, dark shapes moved, huge forms sliding through space without light, without heat, without any signature of life. Kane's jaw tightened. Red alert. All hands battle stations. The void beasts had arrived. The ground shook as the first explosions ripped through the dark sky. From the orbiting fleet above, humanity's warships fired down on the creatures swarming the ruined city. Bright beams of energy lit the night, but nothing seemed to stop. The shadows moving below, Commander Rylan Kane's voice echoed through every soldier's comes. "Hold your line. Get those civilians out. We're not leaving anyone behind." On the ground, chaos. The alien woman, Lyra, barely conscious, was pulled to safety by soldiers as the strange black creatures advanced. The soldiers opened fire, but the monsters moved unnaturally fast. They leaped from broken buildings, vanishing and reappearing in the smoke. One soldier screamed. Another was dragged into the darkness, his voice cutting off mid-sentence. Inside, the armored dropship, the surviving soldiers slammed the doors shut. The engines roared as they lifted off, leaving behind a burning city. The fleet in orbit wasn't faring any better. Ports flooded in, systems failing, ships disappearing, weapons barely making a difference. The creatures later called void beasts didn't act like any known life. They didn't communicate. They didn't stop. They tore through metal and flesh like paper. Aboard the Vanguard, Kane's expression remained cold, but even he felt something he hadn't in years fear. "They're not machines," LT Chen whispered. "They're alive, but wrong." Kane nodded. "And they're testing us." The alien woman, now stable in the medical bay, begged them to leave. Through the translator, she spoke in a broken, tired voice. "You don't understand. They're not just hunters. They're something older. They feed on fear. On life. On everything." Her words sent chills through the room. She spoke of how her people, once mighty and proud, had tried to fight. First with weapons, then with fire, then with everything they had. It didn't matter. The void beasts could not be stopped. They could not be reasoned with. Waves. Worlds were erased. Her planet was already dead. She was the last day. Kane stood silent for a long moment. His mind raced through tactics, numbers, possibilities. None of it made sense. "What do they want?" he finally asked. Lyra's silver eyes filled with tears. "They don't want. They exist. We try to find meaning. There is none. They are the end." Suddenly alarms blared across the ship. Multiple enemy contacts, this time much larger, were closing on the fleet. In the distance, one of the Earth warships, the Horizon, vanished in a flash of unnatural light. One moment it was there, the next it was gone. Kane gave the order. "Pull back! Defensive formation? No one gets separated." But it was already too late. One by one, ships started to fall. Not destroyed. Taken. Swallowed by darkness. Whole decks went silent. Whole crews vanished without a trace. And then the alien signal, the one that had first called for help, began to play again over the fleet's systems. But this time, the voice wasn't the same. It was twisted, distorted, speaking in fragments. Help us, help. There is no. Static. Whispers. Screams. The soldiers aboard the Vanguard looked at each other in growing terror. Even the bravest men and women felt the weight of something far beyond human understanding. Kane clenched his fists. His voice was steady but cold as ice. "Get me options," he ordered. "I don't care how impossible." And somewhere deep beneath the ruined planet, unseen by any scanner, something stirred, something ancient, something worse than anything they'd seen yet. The real enemy hadn't even arrived. The sky above the ruined planet burned with strange AG colors as the Earth's fleet fought for survival. The void beasts moved like shadows between ships, attacking without warning, without sound. The Vanguard shook under the impact of weapons, alarms blaring across every deck. Commander Kane stood firm. On the bridge, his face calm but his mind racing. Every decision could mean life or death. The fleet was already down to ships lost without explanation, entire crews gone without a trace. "We can't win like this, LT," Chen said quietly beside him. Her voice was tight with fear. Kane didn't answer. He was watching the tactical map. The enemy wasn't just attacking, they were surrounding, herding the humans toward something. On the surface of the planet, a rescue team was still trapped. Soldiers fighting in the ruins, desperately trying to reach the last dropship. "Hold the line." Sergeant Hill's voice shouted through the comes. Plasma bolts lit the darkness as the black creatures swarmed closer. The human soldiers were outnumbered, outmatched. Every second counted. The creatures were fast, denaturally fast. They moved in and out of the fog like ghosts. Some soldiers fired wildly into the smoke. Others fell, their screams echoing through the channels before cutting off forever. Suddenly, one of the sergeants noticed something strange. The beasts weren't attacking mindlessly. They were guarding something. In the center of the ruined city, half buried in the rubble, was a massive underground structure. A doorway made of black stone, cracked and ancient, pulsing with a faint red glow. Kane's voice came over the comms. "Get inside that structure." Now, the soldiers hesitated. No one wanted to enter the darkness. But staying outside meant certain death. No other choice, they moved. As they crossed the threshold, the creatures stopped chasing them. The void beasts hissed from the shadows but didn't enter. It was as if they were afraid. Inside the underground temple, the air felt heavy. The walls were covered in strange symbols. Alien machines long dead hummed faintly, and at the center, resting on a broken pedestal, was something glowing. A weapon. The alien survivor. Lyra gasped when she saw it through the soldier's video feed aboard the Vanguard. Her voice shook. "That's impossible." "It's the sun. Shard. It was lost thousands of years ago." "What is it?" Kane demanded. Her eyes locked on his. "It's the only thing my people ever made that scared the void beasts." On the surface, the soldiers carefully lifted the glowing artifact. The moment they touched it, the ground trembled. The sky above the planet shifted. The void beasts screamed a horrible, ear-piercing sound like metal grinding on bone. They were afraid, but they didn't run. Instead, the creatures launched a full assault. Hundreds of them. Thousands. The ruins shook as the monsters charged. More aggressive than before, soldiers fought desperately, trying to reach the dropship. From orbit, Kane watched the battle unfold in real time. His fleet was already battered, but he knew he had no choice. "All ships," he ordered, "prepare for planetary strike. Cover our people." The sky burned as Earth's warships unleashed everything: laser cannons, missiles, orbital railguns. Explosions lit the planet's surface, tearing through the dark hordes. The soldiers barely made it. The dropship engines roared as it lifted into the sky. Carrying the surviving team and the sun shard, the creatures howled below. But they could not follow. For now, as the dropship docked with the Vanguard, Kane met the team in the landing bay. The artifact glowed faintly in the center. Lyra looked at it with fear and awe. This was made by the first ones, long before my people. It can destroy them, but it has a price. Kane's voice was low. What kind of price? Her answer was quiet. To use it, someone has to die. The words hung in the air like a weight. The soldiers exchanged nervous glances. The battle wasn't over. It had only just begun, and humanity now held the key to either victory or complete destruction. The artifact, the sun shard, rested inside the secure bay of the Vanguard, glowing softly with a strange golden light. Everyone on board could feel its presence. It was more than a weapon. It was alive somehow, ancient. Watching, Commander Kane stood silently, staring at it. Around him, the air felt colder, heavier, like the ship itself was holding its breath. Lyra, the alien survivor, spoke quietly. The sun shard was created in the first wars against the void beasts. It burns the creatures from the inside, and it is the only thing that can truly kill them. Kane nodded, his face unreadable. What's the cost? Lyra's eyes lowered. The energy must come from a living mind. Someone must bond with it. And when the weapon is fired, the mind burns away. The soldiers standing nearby shifted uncomfortably. The price was clear, a life for a chance to win. Before Kane could speak, alarms blared across the ship. Sensors lit up with dozens and hundreds of incoming enemy contacts. The void beasts were not retreating, were gathering for a full assault. LT. Chen's voice was sharp. We've got less than 10 minutes before they reach orbit. Kane didn't hesitate. Prepare all ships for battle. Lock the artifact down. The fleet spread into defensive formation. Warships braced for impact. Fighters launched into the cold dark of space, and then the sky tore open. The void beasts came not just as small swarms, but as vast towering shapes that defied logic. Some of the creatures were bigger than ships. Black serpents of living shadow twisted between the stars, tearing through steel as if it were paper. The first human destroyer, the Valor, was struck by one of the giants. The ship folded in half, imploding without even firing a shot. Panic spread across the fleet. Kane's voice cut through the fear. Hold the line, fire everything. Weapons lit up the void, missiles, lasers, plasma rounds. Darkness lit with fire, but the creatures kept coming. The alien Lyra watched the battle unfold from the observation deck. Tears slid down her pale face. This is how it always ends, she whispered. We fight, we fall, the void never stops. At this time, humanity had something her people never did. The sun shard. Kane made the call. We used the weapon. The soldier stepped forward, Captain Elias Ward. He was young but steady. His voice didn't shake. I'll do it, sir. Kane looked into the man's eyes, saw the fear but also the courage. He gave a slow nod. The artifact was activated, the bay filled with golden light as the sun shard linked to Ward's mind. His body tensed. His hands shook. His eyes rolled. Back? Are you sure it? Chen whispered. Kane's voice was cold. You sure? The sun shard pulsed. Power unlike anything the fleet had ever seen gathered in one single blast. A brilliant beam, golden and blinding, fired from the Vanguard. It ripped through the largest void beast in an instant. The creature howled as its form unraveled, disappearing in seconds. The soldiers cheered. The creatures recoiled. The first true victory. But the price came fast. Captain Ward collapsed. His eyes empty, his body lifeless. The sun shard dimmed. The moment of silence didn't last. The creatures regrouped. More of them. Larger. Angrier. The humans had hurt them, but not enough to stop them. Kane's voice was steel. We need another shot. We hold until we're ready. Lyra's voice trembled. There's another way, she said suddenly. We're placed deep in the ruins, the core. If we bring the weapon there, we can destroy them all. But she didn't finish the sentence. The unspoken truth hung in the air. Someone would still have to make the final sacrifice. Kane's eyes stayed. Fixed on the battle outside the window, we find the core, he said quietly. And we end this. The fleet was broken. Half the ships were gone. The others burned, barely holding together. Wreckage floated across the stars. The creatures, the void beasts, circled like sharks, waiting for the final blow. Inside the command center of the vanguard, Kane stood tall, though the weight of the moment pressed down on him like iron. Every screen showed the same thing. Doom closing in. We can't survive another wave. LT, Chen whispered. Kane's voice was low, but steady. We're not here to survive. We're here to finish this. Lyra, the alien woman, stepped forward. There is only one chance left, she said. We must bring the sun shard to the core, deep inside the planet. If we activate it there, the blast will destroy every void creature in this system. Kane's eyes didn't leave the windows. He could already see the next swarm approaching. Huge shapes, shadows twisting across space. What happens to the one who uses the weapon? Chen asked quietly. Lyra hesitated. Then softly, there is no coming back. Kane didn't blink. Then we choose. Volunteers, only soldiers, engineers, Lyra, and Kane himself. The dropship launched under heavy fire, racing down through the burning sky toward the planet's surface. Behind them, the last of the fleet held the line, battered, dying, but refusing to fall. The ruins looked even worse than before. The ground cracked. The air glowed with strange lights. The very world seemed sick-infected by the presence of the void beasts. The team moved fast. Every street, every shadow felt alive. Twice they were attacked by the creatures. Twice they barely escaped, using the last of their ammo and explosives to hold the line. Finally they reached it, a massive stone gate half buried in the ground, ancient beyond words. Carvings along its walls glowed faintly, matching the light of the sun. Shard, this is it, Lyra whispered. The core is below. The team entered. Tunnels twisted deep underground. Black stone gave way to glowing pathways. The deeper they went, the heavier the air became. Breathing felt harder. Voices whispered in their ears, voices that weren't real. Some soldiers broke. One collapsed, screaming. Another had to be carried. But Kane kept moving. Always forward, always toward the end. At last they reached the core. It wasn't a machine or a control room. It was a vast, empty space walls, covered in living light. In the center, a pedestal waiting for the shard. The creatures knew. Even miles above, the void beasts screamed in rage. The ground shook. The sky itself seemed to crack. There was no time left. Kane turned to the team, his voice calm. Final, I'll do it. The others objected. Chen stepped forward. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. But Kane shook his head. You need to get them out, he said softly. I need to stay. He placed the sun shard on the pedestal. The glow became blinding. His hands gripped the artifact. His mind started to slip. He could feel it his memories, his thoughts pulling apart like threads in the wind, but he didn't let go. Run, he whispered. The team fled. The dropship lifted off as the ground split apart beneath them. Above the planet, the creatures howled. The sky turned gold and then light. A wave of impossible power tore through everything. The void beasts saw on land in the air, in space burned into dust, their shapes unraveled, their darkness erased. The fleet watched from orbit as the entire planet lit up like a second sun. Then silence. The creatures were gone, and Rylan Kane was gone too. The last sacrifice. The last victory. The planet was gone, or almost gone. The surface was shattered. Skies were clear for the first time, but the ground was cracked, blackened and lifeless. From orbit, the surviving ships of Earth's fleet floated in silence. Half destroyed, many dark, a few still burning. But the void beasts were gone. On the Vanguard, no one spoke. The crew watched the dead world below through the main window. The last flashes of golden light still faded across the broken planet. Kane was gone. LT. Chen stood quietly, her hands shaking slightly at her sides. No one gave orders. No one moved. The dropship carrying the surviving ground team docked at last. Lyra stepped out first, her face pale, her eyes distant. The soldiers who followed her looked just as hollow. They had survived the impossible. But they had left their commander behind. Chen met them in the landing bay. For a moment, no words came. Only when Lyra stepped forward did anyone break the silence. "It worked," she said softly. "They're gone." Her voice was so quiet it barely seemed real. But it was true. The nightmare was over. The creatures that could not be stopped, destroyed in a single moment of sacrifice, the fleet began slow repairs. Rescue ships searched. For survivors from the destroyed vessels, the bodies they found were few. Hours passed. Then a day. Messages were sent back to Earth. The story spread quickly. The first true war against the unknown. The cost, the victory, and the name of Commander. Rylan Kane was spoken on every channel, in every report. The man who had given everything to save not just his fleet, but his entire species. Lyra remained on board. Watching silently as Earth's forces prepared to return home, she spoke little. Her people were gone, wiped from existence. Yet she had witnessed something her race never had. Humans. Their refusal to quit. Their courage. Their anger. Their mercy. She stood beside Chen on the observation deck. Watching the stars, they always said humans were dangerous, Lyra whispered. Now I know why. Chen didn't smile. She just nodded. They said we were monsters once, Chen said. Maybe we are. But when monsters fight monsters, sometimes one survives. A message was played across the ship's speakers. It was Kane's voice, prerecorded.com/strong. If you're hearing this, I'm already gone, Kane's voice said. Don't waste time grieving. Protect what we've built. Protect each other. This is what we do. This is who we are. The ship fell silent again. The fleet set course for Earth far below. Burned planet remained quiet, empty. The nightmare was over, or so they thought. The journey back to Earth was quiet. The surviving ships moved slowly through space. Their hulls scarred, their crews exhausted. On board the Vanguard, the air felt heavy. Some soldiers laughed softly. Others sat in silence, staring at nothing. They had won. But the cost was still sinking in. Commander Rylan Kane was gone. His name was spoken with respect across every channel and every ship log. The man who saved humanity by giving everything. Lt. Chen sat alone in the observation deck, staring at the stars. Her hand rested on the window as Earth appeared far in the distance. A small blue dot slowly growing larger. Lyra stood beside her. She looked better, her alien wounds healing, her expression calmer. But sadness remained in her silver eyes. I don't understand, Lyra said softly. Why would he do it? Why would any of you? Chen didn't look away from the stars. God! That's what we do, she said quietly. When the line breaks, someone steps forward. Lyra nodded slowly. You're kind. You're different. The fleet entered Earth's orbit at last. The news had already reached the surface millions. Waited. Families. Leaders. Soldiers. The people of Earth stood united, watching the skies. They had won. Humanity had survived its first true test beyond the stars. But as the ships landed and the soldiers walked down the ramps, no one cheered. There was no celebration. It's only quiet respect for the names of those who didn't come home. In the heart of the Vanguard, a memorial was held. Kane's uniform was placed in a glass case. His final message played one more time. If you're hearing this, I'm already gone. Don't stop. Don't give up. Keep going. Always forward. The war was over, but as Lyra stood among the human commanders, her voice broke the silence with a warning they would never forget. This was only one nest, she said softly. The galaxy is bigger than you know. The void beasts, they are not the only ones out there. Chen's eyes narrowed. Lyra turned her gaze to the stars. There are worse things, she whispered. The screen on the command deck flashed briefly unknown. Signals in deep space, faint, distant, but moving closer. The nightmare was over. But the next one was already. Waking, humanity had survived the first war. The next would decide everything. The screen faded to black. End of story.